Lisa Cornell clutched her newborn son Jacob tightly against her chest, her heartbeat racing as she reread the text message on her phone. Lost the rent money gambling. I'm leaving town. You and the baby will be fine. Her husband Mark's final message pierced her heart like a dagger. Just 2 weeks after giving birth, standing outside the hospital entrance with discharge papers in hand, Lisa felt her world crumbling. The cold winter air seemed to mock her uncertainty as she whispered to her sleeping son. What are we going to do now, Jacob? She had no home to return to, no one to call for help. But on that cold winter day, a stranger's words would change everything. She tried calling Mark again, but it went straight to voicemail. Once a successful financial analyst, he had lost his job due to hard work. The gambling addiction he'd hidden had slowly consumed him, along with their savings. Outside their apartment building, Lisa's trembling fingers fumbled with her keys. The lock wouldn't turn. Confused, she tried again before noticing the eviction notice dated several days earlier. Panic rose in her throat as the building manager passed by. Your husband cleared everything out last week, the woman said coldly. 3 months behind on rent. The owner changed the locks immediately. But, our things? The baby's crib? The manager shrugged. He took what he wanted. The rest was disposed of. Lisa stood frozen, the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. All she had were the few baby supplies in her hospital bag and the clothes on her back. The nursery she had painted pale yellow, the tiny clothes she had washed and folded with such care, all gone. Holding Jacob closer, she felt his warmth against the biting cold of the winter day. Where do we go? She whispered, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. Several weeks later. Lisa sat shivering on a bench near the Children's Welfare Center, gently rocking Jacob in her arms. The bitter cold of the winter night seeped through her thin coat. During the day, she found warmth in the public library, but nights were spent here, protecting her son with her body against the freezing temperatures. Just a little while longer, baby, she whispered, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. Mommy will find a job soon, and we'll have a nice place to live. Jacob's eyelids fluttered as he slept. Lisa marveled at how much he looked like Mark, with the same startling blue eyes. Every time she looked into them, she felt a complicated mix of love and pain. Growing up in an orphanage, Lisa had no family to turn to, and her small savings were nearly gone. She had tried applying for jobs, but without an address or phone number, without childcare for Jacob, the doors remained firmly closed. People passed by, some with sympathetic glances, others with judgment in their eyes. Why doesn't she call her relatives? Probably her own fault, a man replied, not bothering to lower his voice. They always have a sob story. The words stung, but Lisa had no energy to feel angry. Her focus remained solely on Jacob, who had begun coughing and felt warmer than usual. Fear gripped her heart as she checked his forehead. You're burning up, she murmured, panic rising in her chest. She had no money for a doctor, nothing to help her child who needed her most. I'm so sorry, she said, tears falling onto his blanket. You deserve a better mother than me. Jacob's only response was another cough, his tiny body shaking with the effort. Lisa felt utterly helpless, a feeling she had known too well in her childhood, but which cut deeper now because it wasn't just her suffering. The last diapers from the support center were gone, and desperation had settled in her heart like a stone. She had tried calling Mark's parents once, only to be told coldly that they weren't responsible for his mistakes. Lisa had reached the edge of hopelessness, wondering if she should surrender Jacob to the welfare center, give him a chance at the warmth and medical care she couldn't provide, when headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the bench where she sat. A car stopped, and a woman in her 60s stepped out. Lisa instinctively pulled Jacob closer, wary of the stranger approaching them. That baby needs to see a doctor, the woman said, her voice firm but kind as she noticed Jacob's cough. There was something in her eyes that Lisa hadn't seen in weeks, genuine concern without judgment. We have no money for doctors, Lisa replied, her voice barely above a whisper. No home to return to either. The woman studied Lisa's face for a moment, her eyes softening. I see myself in you, she said quietly. From many years ago. My name is Eleanor Wilson, she continued. I volunteer with a local women's support group. Eleanor gestured to the bench. May I? When Lisa nodded, she sat down, maintaining a respectful distance. I've seen too many women in situations like yours. As they sat together under the harsh glow of the streetlight, Lisa felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crack. Eleanor's calm presence created a space where Lisa felt, for the first time in weeks, that someone might understand. My husband left, Lisa began, her voice trembling. He gambled away our rent money. I came back from the hospital with Jacob and found out we'd been evicted. He took everything. As Lisa reluctantly shared her story through tears, Eleanor's eyes widened with recognition. I know someone who was deceived in exactly the same way, she said, her voice hardening. The same pattern, the charm at first, the gradual changes, the financial secrets, and then the abandonment when responsibilities became too much. She shook her head. Men like your husband never stop with just one victim. Jacob coughed again, the sound alarmingly deep for such a tiny chest. Eleanor looked at the baby with concern. He needs to be warm and seen by a doctor, she said decisively. I have a spare room in my house. I can call my family physician to come check on him. Lisa hesitated, years of institutional caution warring with maternal desperation. Why would you help us? You don't know me. Eleanor's smile held a hint of sadness. Because someone once helped me when I was young, alone, and had nowhere to turn. She changed the course of my life. She looked directly into Lisa's eyes. Sometimes the kindness we receive isn't meant to be kept, but passed on. Eleanor offered Lisa and Jacob a safe place to stay and medical care. Torn between distrust and desperation, Lisa looked down at her son's flushed face. The coughing was getting worse. In that moment, she made her choice. Just for one night, Lisa agreed, rising from the bench on unsteady legs, carrying her entire world in her arms. Eleanor reached out to steady her, her touch gentle but firm. One night, she agreed, though something in her tone suggested she knew it would be longer. In the warmth of Eleanor's car, Lisa felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks, a tiny, fragile spark of hope. As the streetlights passed overhead, painting Jacob's sleeping face in alternating light and shadow, she wondered if she was making the right decision. But with her son's health at stake, she knew she had no choice but to trust this stranger who seemed to understand her pain in ways no one else had. The car's heater blew blessed warmth over them, and Lisa found herself fighting to stay awake, the comfort after so much hardship almost overwhelming. Rest, Eleanor said softly. You're safe now. Those 3 words, so simple, yet so powerful, broke something in Lisa. Silent tears slid down her cheeks as she allowed herself, just for a moment, to believe it might be true. Sometimes, Eleanor said softly as they drove through the quiet streets, the family we need finds us when we least expect it. Lisa said nothing, but held her son closer, afraid to believe that their long night of suffering might finally be coming to an end. She had learned early in life that hope was dangerous, it made disappointment cut deeper. But as Jacob's breathing seemed to ease slightly in the warm car, as his tiny hand curled around her finger in sleep, she couldn't help but wonder if this night, this chance encounter, might be the turning point they so desperately needed. Through the windshield, she watched as snowflakes began to fall, transforming the harsh world into something softer, purer. Tonight, they would be warm. Tonight, her son would get the care he needed. And for now, that was enough. Eleanor Wilson's house was a well-maintained home in a quiet suburb. Inside, Lisa found a warm room already prepared for Jacob. Eleanor had called her family doctor to examine the baby. It's just a cold, the doctor said, but if he'd been exposed to the elements much longer, it could have developed into pneumonia. After the doctor left, Lisa stood clutching Jacob, overwhelmed by the sudden kindness after weeks of struggle. She remained wary, years in the orphanage making her suspicious of generosity. Why don't you take a hot shower? Eleanor suggested. I'll watch Jacob. Lisa hesitated, reluctant to let her son out of her sight. I raised a son of my own, Eleanor said gently. I still remember how to hold a baby. In the bathroom, Lisa stood under the hot water, watching as weeks of grime washed down the drain. She pressed her forehead against the cool tile, allowing herself to cry silently for the first time since Mark had left. Later, as they sat with mugs of tea, Eleanor explained her background. I was a children's clothing designer for 40 years, she said. Before that, I was a teenage mother with nowhere to go. An older designer took me in, taught me the trade, watched my son while I finished school. I've never forgotten her kindness. So that's why you're helping us? Lisa asked, still finding it hard to believe. Eleanor nodded. Once someone helped me when I needed it most. Now it's my turn to do the same. She squeezed Lisa's hand. The world can be cruel, but sometimes we get to choose which part of the cycle we participate in. That night, as moonlight streamed through the window, Jacob woke up. Lisa lifted him into her arms, and he gazed up at her with bright blue eyes. Her body tensed momentarily. Every time I see those blue eyes, I see a shadow of him, she whispered. But you're not him, Jacob. You're your own person. She cradled him closer. Each time I hold you as my child, I remind myself of that truth. The peaceful beginning shattered the next morning when a man in his early 30s stormed in. Mother, what is this? He demanded, gesturing toward Lisa who stood frozen with Jacob. You're taking in strangers again? Thomas, Eleanor said firmly, this is Lisa and her son Jacob. They needed help. Thomas fixed Lisa with a cold, analytical stare. Another con artist, he spat. Another parasite feeding on my mother's kindness. He turned back to Eleanor. Mother, you always do this. You trust too easily. Lisa felt shame and anger rise in her throat. I didn't ask to be here, she said quietly. And I'll be leaving as soon as I can. Eleanor placed herself between them. That's enough. Lisa and Jacob are my guests, and they will stay as long as they need to. Thomas scoffed but backed down. Before leaving, he shot Lisa a warning look. I'll be watching you. In the days that followed, Thomas's hostility intensified. He visited frequently, interrogating Lisa and warning his mother that she couldn't be trusted. Lisa began searching for jobs, determined not to impose on Eleanor's kindness longer than necessary. But finding employment with a newborn proved nearly impossible. During quiet afternoons, Lisa began to repurpose old clothes Eleanor had planned to donate. Using a small sewing kit, she transformed adult garments into unique baby outfits. The methodical process calmed her mind, bringing back memories of her time in the orphanage. My mother was supposedly good at sewing, she told Eleanor. The only thing I have from her is a baby outfit that was left with me at the orphanage. One of the staff told me, perhaps your mother made this for you. I don't know if it's true, but it gave me something to hold on to. Eleanor watched Lisa work with growing admiration. You have real talent, she said, examining a tiny jacket Lisa had fashioned. The way you combine colors and textures, you have an innate sense of design. Thomas, arriving unannounced, snorted from the doorway. She's wasting your fabric and supplies, Mother. Just another freeloader taking advantage of you. Lisa flinched but continued sewing, her fingers moving more quickly as she channeled her hurt into creativity. Later, Eleanor explained Thomas's behavior. He's been hurt before. When he was younger, someone he trusted deeply betrayed him. It made him suspicious of everyone, especially unfamiliar women. She sighed. He works as a data analyst now, always surrounded by numbers and statistics. He believes in data rather than people because numbers don't lie. One morning, while Eleanor was out shopping, Thomas took photographs of one of Lisa's handmade baby outfits, a charming ensemble crafted from a discarded blue shirt with nautical appliques she had meticulously hand-stitched. He posted the pictures on social media with a sarcastic caption, "Mother has taken in another homeless person. This one dresses her child in rags." His attempt to embarrass Lisa backfired spectacularly. Within hours, the post was shared thousands of times, with comments pouring in praising the creative design. "Where can I buy this? It's adorable. I'd purchase 10 of these if it helps to support a single mom. This is the most innovative baby outfit I've seen all year. Is there a shop I can buy it from?" Such an inspiring story behind these clothes. Thomas was bewildered. When he tried to delete the post, he discovered it had been shared so widely that it was impossible to contain. Eleanor returned home to find Lisa staring at her phone in disbelief as notifications continued to stream in. People were asking where they could purchase the clothes, offering encouragement, and sharing their own stories. "Do you realize what this means?" Eleanor asked, her eyes shining with excitement. "This could be your opportunity, Lisa. Your talent could change your life." Lisa looked up, her expression a mixture of hope and terror. "But I don't have any money to start a business. I don't know the first thing about running one." The prospect of being visible to the world again sent a spike of fear through her chest. Being noticed had rarely led to anything good in her experience. "I'm scared of being seen," she admitted quietly. "But..." Her eyes drifted to Jacob, sleeping peacefully. "I can't run away this time. Not when there might be a chance for us." Eleanor's face softened. "I'll teach you everything I know," she promised. "My experience and your talent could create something wonderful together." Lisa looked down at her hands, calloused from nights spent shielding her son from the cold, now capable of creating something beautiful from discarded materials. Perhaps her life could follow the same pattern, beauty emerging from what had been thrown away. Maybe this could be a new beginning for Jacob and me. She didn't notice Thomas watching from the doorway. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed his face as he witnessed his mother's genuine belief in Lisa's potential. He withdrew silently, struggling to reconcile his suspicions with the evidence before him, a young mother who had created something of value from nothing. That night, Lisa sat by Jacob's crib, gently stroking his cheek as he slept. "Things might be changing for us," she whispered. "And I'm terrified. But I'll try to be brave for you." She smiled as his tiny hand curled around her finger. "Maybe someday you'll be proud of your mom." Outside the door, Eleanor paused, not wanting to intrude. She'd recognized Lisa's talent immediately, but more importantly, she'd recognized the fierce love that drove the young woman to protect her child at all costs. It was the same love that had propelled Eleanor herself through her darkest days. "We all deserve a second chance," she murmured as she moved away. "Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us first." With Eleanor's guidance, Lisa launched a crowdfunding campaign for her repurposed baby clothes. She named her brand Second Life Baby, with the tagline, "Breathing new life into what was discarded." The concept resonated with her own journey, finding value in what others had thrown away. Creating the campaign page was nerve-wracking. Lisa stared at the blank "About Me" section, unsure how much to share. "People connect with authenticity," Eleanor advised. "Let them see your passion." Finally, Lisa wrote, "As a single mother who once had nothing, I believe in second chances, for clothes, for people, for dreams. Each piece is handcrafted with love while my son sleeps beside me." The path forward proved challenging. Negative comments appeared. "Who wants clothes made by a homeless person? Sounds unsanitary. How do we know she actually makes these herself?" Each comment felt like a personal attack. Lisa's confidence wavered as the funding stalled at less than half their goal. "Maybe they're right," she whispered to Eleanor. "Who am I to think I could build something like this?" Eleanor squeezed her hand. "The people who matter will see your worth." The next morning, a new comment appeared, "I'm a single mom too. Your courage to rebuild your life has inspired me to pursue my own dreams again. Just ordered 3 outfits for my daughter." The comment went viral. Suddenly, the campaign was flooded with support and orders. By the end of the week, they had surpassed their funding goal by 300%. Even Thomas began to soften his stance. I still don't fully trust you, he told Lisa bluntly, but it makes my mother happy to see this project succeed. He reluctantly offered to help build a website. With Eleanor's connections, they secured a small workshop space. The day Lisa received the keys, she stood alone in the empty space, overwhelmed by emotion. When that post went viral, she whispered, "That was the first time I felt like I was standing on my own. Not because of someone else, but because something I created with my own hands was valued." She hung the design sketch of her very first baby outfit on the wall, a visual reminder of where her journey had begun. It would become the unofficial logo of Second Life Baby. As orders increased, Lisa hired 2 other single mothers in similar circumstances. During lunch breaks, they shared stories of struggle and resilience. "This isn't just a business," Lisa told them. "This is a path to independence for women like us. No one should have to choose between taking care of their children or losing them." 6 months after launching the business, Lisa and Eleanor sat in the living room long after Jacob had been put to bed. They were celebrating a successful first half year with glasses of wine. "I never thought I'd be here," Lisa admitted. "When I was little, in the orphanage, I used to fantasize about who my mother might have been. Why she left me. There was this baby outfit they told me I was found with," Lisa continued. "It was handmade, simple but beautiful. One of the staff said, 'Perhaps your mother made this for you.' I don't know if that's true, but I held on to that idea so tightly." She took a sip of wine. "I used to think, if she made this for me, she must have loved me at least a little, even if she couldn't keep me." Lisa's eyes grew distant. "Now that I'm a mother myself, I think I understand better. She probably didn't have choices. Maybe she was alone, like I was." Eleanor nodded slowly. "Motherhood forces impossible choices sometimes." "What about Thomas's father?" Lisa asked hesitantly. Eleanor's expression softened with old pain. "He left when Thomas was 3. Said he wasn't cut out to be a father." She stared into her glass. "I was 19, working as a department store clerk, barely making ends meet." "How did you survive?" Lisa asked. "There was this elderly designer, Madeline, who had a small boutique next to the store. She noticed me struggling, always bringing Thomas to work because I couldn't afford childcare." Eleanor's eyes brightened. "One day she simply said, 'Bring the boy to me during your shifts. I could use the company.' Madeline taught me to sew, to see beauty in fabric others overlooked. She watched Thomas while I finished school." Eleanor's voice grew quieter. "Back then, I wanted to give up everything. Until someone helped me, I didn't believe I had any value beyond being a mother, and I wasn't even sure I was good at that." Lisa was surprised by this confession of weakness from a woman who seemed so composed. "That's why I understand your pain," Eleanor continued. "And why I believe in you so fiercely." Neither woman noticed Thomas standing in the shadowed hallway, listening. He'd come to drop off some website analytics but stopped, transfixed by his mother's words. Eleanor continued, studying one of Lisa's newest designs. "When I look at your work, I see echoes of Madeline's designs. She had the same eye for transforming the ordinary into something special." This statement struck Thomas deeply. He'd grown up hearing about the legendary Madeline who had saved their family. The comparison to Lisa unsettled his firmly held suspicions. He slipped away unnoticed, his perception of Lisa shifting as he processed what he'd heard. A local newspaper ran a feature story, "From Orphan to Entrepreneur, a Homeless Mother's Miraculous Rebirth." The article detailed Lisa's journey and the success of Second Life Baby, with photos of Lisa with Jacob. Unbeknownst to Lisa, the story reached Mark Harrison. He sat in his dingy apartment, staring at Lisa's photograph on his laptop screen. His once handsome face had grown haggard, his expensive clothes replaced by worn items that still bore designer labels. "That's my son," he muttered, zooming in on Jacob's face. "And that success should have been mine." His resentment festered as he read about the growing business. In his mind, he convinced himself that Lisa had somehow planned this all along. Mark began monitoring Lisa's social media accounts, looking for ways to insert himself back into her life. He started researching parental rights, calculating how he might leverage his connection to Jacob for financial gain. Meanwhile, Lisa was completely unaware of the threat. Her days were filled with work, caring for Jacob, and the growing sense of security that came with success. One afternoon, while searching for a stapler in Thomas's office with his permission, Lisa noticed a framed photograph partially hidden behind some books. She picked it up and felt her blood run cold. The photo showed a younger Thomas with his arm around Mark. They both wore graduation gowns and wide smiles. Her hand trembling, Lisa replaced the photo and left the room. That evening, she spoke with Thomas alone. "I saw a photo in your office today," she began carefully. "You and Mark together." Thomas's expression immediately darkened. "You went through my things?" "No, I was looking for the stapler like you said I could." "The photo was on your desk." Lisa's heart raced. "How do you know him?" Thomas's jaw tightened. "We were acquaintances in college. Business school." His tone was clipped, defensive. "We don't keep in touch anymore." "Just acquaintances?" Lisa pressed, feeling there was more to the story. "That's all you need to know," Thomas snapped, his earlier warmth vanishing. "It was a long time ago." Lisa didn't push further, respecting his privacy despite her growing anxiety. But questions haunted her. What was the nature of their relationship? Why was Thomas so defensive? And most troublingly, did Thomas know where Mark was now? That night, she checked all the locks twice before going to bed, Jacob's crib pulled closer than usual. "What if Mark finds us?" she whispered in the darkness, the fear she thought she'd left behind creeping back into her heart. Her intuition wasn't wrong. Mark had already tracked down Eleanor's address through social media clues. He drove by the house several times, planning his approach. Meanwhile, Jacob continued to grow and thrive. His first wobbly steps were taken in Eleanor's garden, his first words, "Mama" and "Nana" for Eleanor, celebrated with tears of joy. These precious milestones provided moments of happiness that temporarily eclipsed the shadows gathering around them. But the peace wouldn't last. Mark was methodically planning his return, convinced he deserved a share of Lisa's success and prepared to use Jacob as leverage. The life Lisa had carefully rebuilt was about to face its greatest test. The workshop bell chimed. Lisa looked up and froze. Mark Harrison stood in the doorway, his once immaculate appearance now disheveled. "Hello, Lisa," he said with familiar charm. "Success suits you." Lisa felt her body turn to ice. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see my son. I think we can start over. I've changed." Lisa turned to her employees. "Could you take an early lunch?" Once alone, she faced Mark, keeping the work table between them. "There is no us. You made that clear when you took our rent money and disappeared." "I was in a bad place then," he said. "I want to be part of Jacob's life. He needed his father when we were sleeping on a bench," Lisa said, her voice hardening. "Now we're fine without you." Mark's charming mask slipped. "I have rights, Lisa. I'm still his father. You gave up those rights when you abandoned us. Not according to the law." "And your business?" "Since it was conceptualized during our marriage, I'm entitled to half." Lisa felt the blood drain from her face, remembering the partnership papers Mark had convinced her to sign. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "I would. Unless we come to an arrangement." His eyes glittered. "I want visitation with Jacob. And a position in the business. With compensation. You abandoned us. And now you want to profit from what I built from nothing?" "I was abandoned too," Mark shouted, his composure cracking. "My whole life, I was only valued when I succeeded. If I wasn't perfect, I wasn't worthy of being loved." Vulnerability flickered across his face, a glimpse of the wounded boy beneath the manipulative man. But the moment passed quickly. "I'm taking what's mine." An employee peeked in. "Everything okay?" Please call the police, Lisa said firmly. Mark grabbed his coat. This isn't over. I'll see you in court. He pointed at Lisa. And tell Thomas Wilson I know exactly what game he's playing. As Mark left, Lisa collapsed into a chair. He knew where she was living. At the Wilson home, Lisa confronted Thomas as soon as he arrived. Mark came today, she said. He threatened to take Jacob and claim half my business. Did he hurt you? No. But he mentioned you by name. Lisa stepped closer. How do you really know Mark? Thomas ran a hand through his hair. We were in business school together. And that's it. If you know something that could help protect my son, tell me now. We were friends. Until I saw what he was capable of. What happened? Lisa pressed. He hurt someone I cared about. A woman. He hesitated. She trusted him. He cleaned out her bank account. She tried to. He broke off. She tried to what? She tried to kill herself, he said quietly. I never forgave myself for introducing them. Understanding dawned on Lisa. That's why you were so suspicious of me. You thought I might be like him. Thomas nodded reluctantly. I was afraid you were targeting my mother. Thomas, Eleanor's voice came from the doorway. She looked pale. You should have told me. In the kitchen, Lisa explained Mark's threats while Thomas revealed more about his past connection to Mark. He's filed for custody, Lisa said, showing them the court summons. And he's claiming ownership of Second Life baby. Eleanor squeezed Lisa's hand. We won't let him take Jacob or your business. The situation deteriorated when Thomas received a text from Mark, your mother stole my son. Lisa is just using you both. Ask yourself why she really showed up on your doorstep. Thomas stared at the message. Is it possible? Did you know about my connection to Mark before you met my mother? Lisa stared at him in disbelief. How could I? I was homeless with a newborn. But the coincidence seems impossible, Thomas argued. Of all the benches in the city, you happen to be at one where my mother would find you? Thomas. Eleanor exclaimed. You can't seriously be suggesting Lisa planned this. But Lisa could see the suspicion returning to his eyes. Maybe you've been manipulating us from the beginning, Thomas continued, his voice harder. Maybe this whole thing was a setup. Lisa stood up, shaking with anger and hurt. After everything, you still think I'm lying? As they argued, neither noticed Eleanor pressing a hand to her chest, her breathing becoming labored. It wasn't until she gasped and slumped in her chair that they turned to see her face contorted in pain. Eleanor. Lisa cried out, rushing to her side. Mom. Thomas was already calling an ambulance. The hospital waiting room was quiet. Lisa and Thomas sat on opposite sides, the recent argument creating an invisible wall between them. Mrs. Wilson has suffered a mild heart attack, the doctor explained. We've stabilized her, but she'll need to stay for observation. In the hospital room, Eleanor looked smaller and more fragile than Lisa had ever seen her. The sight of this strong woman connected to monitors brought tears to her eyes. Eleanor opened her eyes. No more fighting, she whispered. Thomas took his mother's hand. I'm sorry, Mom. We shouldn't have upset you. Eleanor shook her head slightly. Not about me. About you too. She looked between them. I don't have much time left. Don't say that, Thomas interrupted. It's true, Eleanor insisted. My heart has been weak for years. That's why I need to know you'll take care of each other after I'm gone. She turned to Lisa. You and Jacob are the family I chose. The daughter and grandson I never had. To Thomas, she said, and you need to learn to trust again. Not everyone will betray you. Eleanor closed her eyes briefly. Back when I was young and alone, I wanted to give up. Everything seemed too hard. But you too. Her voice broke. You two and Jacob are my family. Stop fighting each other, she continued. The real threat is Mark. You need to protect each other, and Jacob. Lisa's phone buzzed with a message from Mark, the courts will side with me. Prepare to hand over my son and my share of the business. Lisa showed the message to Thomas. Something shifted in his expression, suspicion giving way to protective anger. He won't get away with this, Thomas said quietly. I won't let him hurt my family anymore. Lisa looked up, surprised by his inclusion of her and Jacob in a family. I'll handle Mark, Thomas continued. You focus on Mom and Jacob. In that moment, with Eleanor lying vulnerable, the shared awareness of her mortality created a bridge between Lisa and Thomas. Their mutual love for this woman who had saved them both forced them to see past their differences. We both need you, Eleanor, Lisa said, taking her other hand. Jacob needs his grandmother. Eleanor smiled weakly. And I need to know you'll be there for each other when I can't be. She squeezed both their hands. Promise me. Thomas looked at Lisa across the bed, his expression softening. I promise. Lisa met his gaze steadily. So do I. As they left the hospital room, Lisa paused. I never knew about your connection to Mark. I need you to believe that. Thomas was quiet for a moment. I believe you. He stared out the window. Mark has always excelled at manipulating people against each other. He turned to face her. We can't let him win. Not this time. For the first time, Lisa saw not just Eleanor's suspicious son, but a man who had been hurt and was afraid of being hurt again. Someone not so different from herself. For Jacob, she said. And for Eleanor. For our family, Thomas replied quietly, the words clearly unfamiliar but spoken with conviction. As they walked together down the hospital corridor, Lisa felt a flicker of hope amidst the fear. Mark might have found them, but he had underestimated what they had become, not just individuals united by circumstance, but a family forged through shared struggles and genuine care. The battle ahead would be difficult, but for the first time since Mark's appearance, Lisa believed they might actually win. A week after her heart attack, Eleanor passed away peacefully. Thomas and Lisa each held one of her hands, her final words lingering, "You are my true family. Take care of each other." The funeral brought together dozens of women Eleanor had helped through the years, each approaching the casket with a flower. I had no idea she helped so many, Lisa whispered. Thomas's voice was thick with emotion. She never talked about it. She kept doing what she felt was right. The following day, Eleanor's lawyer arrived to read the will. To Lisa Cornell, I leave my design studio, equipment, and half of my financial assets, to continue her work with Second Life Baby and ensure a secure future for her and Jacob. Lisa gasped softly. To my son Thomas, I leave the family home and the remaining half of my assets. The lawyer handed Lisa an envelope. Mrs. Wilson asked that you read this privately. As he left, silence fell over the room. Thomas, I had no idea, Lisa began. Did you? His voice turned cold. Wasn't this your plan all along? Get close to a wealthy woman and cash in when she's gone? Lisa recoiled. How can you say that? I loved Eleanor. And now you have half her fortune. Thomas stood, trembling with anger. My mother was trusting to a fault. You took advantage of that. I never asked for any of this, Lisa protested. Maybe not directly. But you played your part perfectly, didn't you? The struggling single mother, the abandoned wife, the designer needing just one chance. Lisa clutched Jacob closer as he began to whimper. Thomas pointed to the door. I want you out. Today. Thomas, please. Out. He shouted, causing Jacob to burst into tears. In her room, Lisa opened Eleanor's envelope with trembling fingers. My dearest Lisa, the letter began. If you're reading this, I've moved on. Don't grieve too much. You and Jacob are the family I chose. Just as Madeline once saved me, I was blessed to help you. Thomas will be angry about my decision. He fears abandonment and betrayal. His suspicion is his shield against being hurt again. Be patient with him if you can. Your gift isn't just making beautiful clothes from discarded materials. It's seeing the potential for beauty where others see only what's broken. Share that gift with the world. With all my love, Eleanor. Lisa held the letter to her chest and wept. Lisa found herself back at the bench where Eleanor had first found her. At least we're better off than last time, she told Jacob, forcing a smile. But the weight of loss pressed down on her, not just Eleanor's death, but the shattering of the family they had begun to build. Before leaving the house, Lisa had discovered an old notebook in Eleanor's bedroom. Now, sitting on the bench, she opened it. The journal contained Eleanor's thoughts about Thomas and Mark. Lisa was stunned to learn that Eleanor had known about their connection. More shocking was the revelation about Thomas's past. Thomas was once under Mark's influence, Eleanor had written. He admired Mark's charm and success, and for a time, turned a blind eye to his friend's manipulative behavior. Eleanor described how Thomas had introduced Mark to his own girlfriend, only to have Mark systematically defraud her. When she attempted suicide, Thomas finally saw Mark's true nature. He cut ties immediately, but has never forgiven himself for his complicity through silence. The final pages contained Eleanor's wisdom. Thomas fears becoming like Mark. That's why he's so suspicious. What he doesn't understand is that redemption comes not through punishment, but through protection. When you truly want forgiveness, you find it in protecting others. Lisa closed the journal, understanding flooding through her. Thomas's hostility wasn't just about protecting his mother, it was about atoning for his past failure to protect someone he loved. With sudden determination, Lisa returned to the Wilson house. She found Thomas in his office, surrounded by spreadsheets, his face haggard with grief. "I told you to leave," he said when he saw her. Lisa set Eleanor's journal on his desk. "Your mother wanted you to have this too." As Thomas flipped through the pages, his face paled. "I never thought I'd be like him," Thomas said finally, his voice barely audible. "But I became something worse, someone who sees only the worst in people, who pushes away anyone who might care." Lisa set a note on top of the journal that had fallen from its pages. "When you seek forgiveness, you find it in protecting others." Thomas looked up, eyes bright with tears. "I was so afraid of being fooled again that I became the very thing I hated, someone who hurts others to protect himself." "We've both been hurt," Lisa said quietly. "But your mother gave us both a second chance. She taught me that my past doesn't define my future. Maybe she wanted to teach you the same." Thomas looked at the cold spreadsheets covering his desk, then back at Eleanor's handwritten journal. "Numbers give answers," he said slowly. "But sometimes, the heart needs kindness, not correctness." That's what she was trying to tell me. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he continued. "But I am sorry, Lisa. For doubting you. For failing to see what my mother saw in you." "We both loved her," Lisa replied. "Maybe that's enough common ground to start with." 1 year later. Spring sunshine streamed through the windows of the Second Chance House, the shelter and training center Lisa and Thomas had established in Eleanor's memory. The Second Life Foundation now supported single mothers with housing, childcare, and skills training. The custody battle with Mark had ended in Lisa's favor after Thomas testified about Mark's history of manipulation. Eleanor's journal had provided the final evidence needed. Thomas had left his data analyst job to manage the foundation full-time. "Jacob's asking for his Uncle Tom," Lisa told Thomas with a smile. "Something about promised ice cream." Outside, 5-year-old Jacob waited in the garden, wearing a miniature business suit Lisa had made. "Uncle Tom," he called excitedly. "Look at you, all dressed up," Thomas said, lifting the boy. "I'm practicing to be like you and help people," Jacob explained seriously. Lisa watched them, her heart full. In a display case near the entrance, she placed the baby outfit she had been found with, alongside her first Second Life baby design. Between them sat a photograph of Eleanor. A young mother approached Lisa. "Your story gives me hope," she said. If you could start over with nothing and build all this. Lisa smiled. It wasn't just me. Sometimes the family you need finds you when you least expect it. She glanced at Thomas and Jacob. And sometimes what seems broken beyond repair can become something even more beautiful. As she walked into the sunshine to join them, Lisa thought about how far they had come. It doesn't matter anymore if my birth mother actually made that outfit, she realized. The moment I felt love from that simple garment, I was no longer an abandoned child. I was someone worth loving. She's still with us, Lisa said softly to Thomas as they watched Jacob chase a butterfly. Thomas nodded. In everything we do. As the spring breeze carried the scent of new blossoms, Lisa looked up at the sign above the center's entrance, the Eleanor Wilson House for Second Chances. Below it is a sentence saying, where what has been discarded finds new life.